Welcome to the Humans and Earth podcast. We bring you inspiration and practical resources for healing our planet and ourselves. It is time for soulful contributions that regenerate life on Earth.
I'm Helen Claire Harmon, a thought leader and teacher who believes we're ready to renew Earth and heal ourselves in the process. Welcome to today's episode. Welcome to the Humans and Earth podcast. Today, I'm in conversation with energy healer and New Earth visionary, Joy Baker of Courage in Action. Joy specializes in helping her clients release trapped emotions that can result from trauma. Because most of us are not taught strong skills for processing trauma, its effects become stored in our bodies and can influence our actions, experiences, emotions, and physical health. Joy has herself been on a lengthy journey of choosing the courage to resolve trauma. After a first career working with horses for 25 years, she found she related to horses much better than she did with people. In fact, she had no idea how to relate to people when she left the racetrack and not only had to overcome crippling shyness and go on a journey to discover who she was, but also learn how to communicate with her own species, humans. Since she was willing to go so deep into her emotional realm and release what was no longer working for her, she has developed a level of understanding and acceptance that allows her clients to feel supported and empowered. She creates an environment of trust and safety that encourages her clients to break through their self-imposed limitations and supports them in recognizing their value and greatness. I invited Joy to talk with us on Humans and Earth after I heard her speak about clearing trauma, becoming our highest selves, and co-creating New Earth, the circumstance many of us believe is possible for us to create on Earth as we choose to live at the highest levels of human capacity, restore our connection with Earth, and regenerate Earth's well-being. Welcome, Joy.
Hi, Helen. Thanks for having me on your show. I'm looking forward to this discussion. I mean, humans and Earth, it's what humanity is really all about. It's why why we're here is to take care of the Earth, but many of us don't realize that until sometimes it's past due. Put it out.
Yes, and one of the things that I'm optimistic about right now is I see the conversation about human well-being and Earth's or nature's well-being getting closer and closer together. We've kept them separate for a long time, but I think we're starting to see that how we're doing is completely interrelated with how the Earth is doing. So please tell us about your work and how it developed.
Sure. Well, like many on this path, I had my journey of pain. I went through a lot of trauma and abuse growing up and had a speech impediment, epilepsy, got bullied a lot, ended up being really shy and such. Then when I started on this path of personal growth, more in the spiritual field and that, I started to remember some of the things that, had happened through repressed memories and that. So that really got me going down this, I call it the rabbit hole of pain, going right down there. And I mean, there were times I didn't know I was going to come out of this, this pain field, but I did. And it's just, I went through 2 bankruptcies. I started to, it was interesting, Helen, as I started to care about myself and started to pay attention, take care of myself, I started to realize, the Earth and the animals and how like you said, we are interconnected. When I was shut down, I was completely shut down. I didn't feel, I didn't care, I just had no feelings. I was one of the, blank look in the eyes and such. And I had no idea about how we affected the Earth until I started to be honest with myself, become authentic, move forward, move through what was, the repressed feelings and that. And that was when I started to care about the earth. That was when, even though I spent my life with horses, I didn't get the connection between animals and humans, even though it might sound weird, even though I worked with them, but I didn't get, I was still at that time a meat eater, and people eat meat, that's fine. But I didn't understand how we were affecting the earth and ecology and everything until I really started to, care about myself.
Yeah, that's really profound. And that leads directly into one of the other things that I wanted to ask you about today, because a lot of your work focuses on helping other people clear their trauma and become healthier and happier in mind and body. And it is starting to seem more and more evident to us that if we're going to save or repair human life on this planet and help the other species. Now, as we all probably know, the planet and most of the other species would be totally fine whether we're here or not.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm phrasing it that way. If we are going to salvage our existence on this planet, we are probably going to have to get ever more serious about releasing individual and collective trauma. So, I mean, I would love to hear your thoughts on that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. The more, like you said, it's interconnected. The more we care about ourselves, our personal selves. I'm not talking from a selfish standpoint. So if you look at the first word is self. And the more we genuinely care about ourselves, the more we care about others, the more we care about our environment, the more we care about the animals, the more we care about plants. We just, it's not like it's limited to ourselves. We just care about everything. It all becomes a whole. And the more we pay attention to what's going on and how we realize, the water we use and the recycling, the plastics and that, even just the little things, the more we start to pay attention to that. Because if we're not paying attention to ourselves, if our nervous system is stuck, frozen in trauma, it's almost like a frozen place. Think of a frozen block of ice. Well, and everybody knows the feeling of being stagnant and stuck and such. If somebody's gone through some kind of trauma or abuse growing up, and that is energy that gets stuck in the nervous system, which affects us on all levels, then how are you going to care about the environment if you don't care about yourself and you're just feeling stuck and frozen in trauma? So yes, definitely it starts with a person healing, being honest with themselves, awakening. There's a lot of people awakening in the world right now. And realizing, just like you said, we're interconnected. Because I didn't get, even though I worked with animals, so I was, in the working with animals and more connected to the human or to the earth at that time, I didn't realize the connection. So I didn't pay any attention to caring about the earth or anything like that until, as I healed, I also healed my relationship with the earth and such. So it works together. Yes, it's interconnected. Exactly.
Yeah, I'm reminded of that phrase that we use, hurt people. Yeah. And it seems like what we really need to expand that to is hurt people, hurt others, hurt other life forms, whether it's people or animals or, the way that they're treating the environment around them. So that can be daunting to think about in a certain way, because whether you take a psychological perspective on trauma, the more medical scientific neuroscience perspective, or an energy healing perspective, and of course it's exciting that those conversations are really starting to layer together and talk to one another, you realize that humans carry a lot of trauma, and we probably all have experienced trauma at one level, from minor to moderate to major. And it does seem like it's getting in the way of our compassion for other life and our ability to exert the will to regenerate this planet. You know, one thing I'm always paying attention to is we have the knowledge now, and we have the renewable energy technologies, and we have the abilities to make plastic from fungi and things like that. What we're lacking is the will. So there's a lot of human trauma. There's a lot of earth regeneration that needs to occur. How do you stay out of overwhelm about that yourself?
Good question. If you look at everything that's being done, and one is listening to mainstream news. If a person listens to mainstream news and the doomsday stories, I mean, yeah, we're all going to be gone in, however many, whenever that is. And so you start, it's like anything, any action plan, anything like that, you break it down. The journey of 1,000 steps starts with the first step. So it starts with, yes, there are little things, but there are things anybody can do, whether it's recycling or it's picking up something in a paper bag instead of a plastic container. It's paying attention. It's the little things. But whether it's saving the earth or whether it's somebody starting a business, if you look at the big picture and then you take it back to steps. So you look at the earth and you look at what's going on and what the corporations are doing, different things like that, and then you bring it back to yourself and say, okay, how can I make a difference? Otherwise, a person, you're just going to get overwhelmed. It's too big, because you can't go and take on, say, corporations and multi-billion-dollar corporations, but individually, and if we all care and if we all work together individually, yes, then we can make a difference. But if we get overwhelmed by it, then we're just there's that frozen trauma, then we just stay stuck. And we're like, then we go into, hopelessness and helplessness, and what's the use? But we don't have to, but that's where actually what you were talking about, and you mentioned the word will, actually what came in was compassion. That's what we need, because when will is trying to make something happen or force something, where compassion is allowing it, realizing, and then plus you're holding it in a higher frequency, and you're seeing the earth is healed, and you're seeing because we can't fight these billion-dollar corporations. I mean, we're not going to be able to fight them and such, but what we can do is we can hold the earth, we can hold ourselves, we can hold humanity in a space of healing, in a space of it. Think of it as a space or a vessel of healing, of warmth, of love, of light, whether it's an individual person who's been, hurt or in a car accident or some kind of, disability, something going on, hold them in a space and a vessel of beauty and love and light and healing, because what that does because everything is energy, vibration, and frequency. So what that does, it holds them in whether it's the earth, the animals, the plants, an individual person, yourself, it holds you in a higher frequency and vibration. And that's when healing takes place. And I have seen, Helen, over and over again in relationships where people will say, like, different trauma in relationships and how things are stuck. And, sometimes it's around money or whatever it is. And we'll look at those relationships and, I just look at the energy between them and we release the trauma and create, a harmonious flow. And it's amazing what happens. They get a phone call, they receive money from an inheritance, different things like that. Well, we can do that for the earth as well. But one person can't do it. But the more and more people who start caring about themselves, having compassion for themselves, that extends to the earth, that extends to the animals, the plants, life, all of that. And hold that all as in a vessel. Think of even a golden vessel. If somebody wants to hold a picture of that, of love and beauty and love and light and gentleness and kindness and warmth. And that starts the healing process. And energetically, See, when we get angry, say at corporations, or we want to fight them or something like that, or we go into helplessness and overwhelm and such, what we focus on, we give energy to. So if you're focusing on this is wrong, it shouldn't be done, and then you go into helplessness, you're actually giving energy to the very thing you're against. Yeah. So you give energy to what you want, to see. And that's how we create working together, and we can all create a healthier earth.
Yeah, I really appreciate your view on that, because that has become mine also, that whether we're talking about human history or energy and frequency, and I like to talk about both, we see that we create what we have in mind. We create what we envision. Any invention, just to speak in a physical way for a moment, any invention that humans have ever developed came out of a vision, an intention, a desire. And really, I think sometimes people get confused about what is this frequency, vibration, conversation. Well, it has many layers, but part of it is simply this reality we can observe in human existence, that we create what we believe in and what we are kind of envisioning and imagining, and we energize those things, as you say. I sometimes have concerns about the activist conversations that are sort of like war-based. We're going to fight this. We're going to, conquer this. It's an understandable approach, but it doesn't seem to me to be the frequency or vibration that's really going to move us forward.
Right. I believe, I've given that a lot of thought and such, and I believe we all have the part we're playing. And those activists, yes, they're giving energy to the very thing they don't want, but at the same time, they're playing their part in waking people up. And then those people that awaken to what's going on, they can then choose to move forward from that place. And so if you want to see a healthier earth, a greener earth, like you said, the earth is going to be okay, whether we're here or not. So yeah, let's be partners with it. So send love into the earth, see the earth as being, actually, like you said, the earth will be okay. You want to see, the more humanity heals and the more we are kind to ourselves and each other, the more we support the earth through that. The earth itself is, she's always going to be okay. So
yeah, I appreciate what you're saying about compassion too, and it reminds me of the great humanitarian Albert Schweitzer's essay, Reverence for Life, because he argues if you simply hold reverence for life, then you're going to care for all life forms, whether it's your human neighbor or something in nature. That compassionate, heart-based approach to the world kind of covers all the bases.
Oh yeah, when like I said before, I started on this path of personal growth, I felt nothing. I was just numb, the blank eyes and that, and any success or anything that went bad was the same. I was just neutral, but I also didn't care about anything. I didn't even know what that meant. I didn't care about myself. I certainly didn't care about the earth because I had no connection to it. Even though I worked in it and I loved horses and all that, that connection was just not there. But what I really didn't have a connection with was with myself. And the most important relationship ultimately we will ever have is with ourselves. Because the more we care about ourselves, the more we connect to ourselves, we feel empowered within ourselves, we're going to care about everything else. We just do. And the reason being is the more we love ourselves, we appreciate ourselves, we feel good about ourselves, that sets up a vibration and frequency, energy, and we send that out. So we connect to others through that energy. We've all heard of the term, resonating with others or resonating with, an event or an experience and such, or a place. That's why. If it's whatever is within you, you're sending that, just like Wi-Fi towers, they broadcast out a frequency. We're broadcasting out that frequency all the time. So you're going to connect to that. If you care about yourself, you're kind, compassionate, understanding towards yourself, that's what you're sending out. That's what you're going to connect to. And you're going to connect to whether the earth or others or animals or whatever it is through that same frequency, that energy. You're going to connect through that.
Yeah, I think that's wise. I wonder if you could talk about what people can do if self-love is really alienating to them, because you've been on this path, so you probably know what I'm talking about, where if you haven't experienced a lot of self-love, if you're very self-critical or you've had a lot of trauma or both, I think, some people hear this recommendation to love themselves and they just tune out. It's hard for them to connect to that. And it's been something that I've had to cultivate over time. I wouldn't say I'm an expert as you are, because you work with people on this. So given that it seems like there's a pretty strong argument to be made that if we're going to salvage, preserve, regenerate human life on this planet, humans really need to work on our trauma, our self-compassion, our compassion for other life forms. And part of this is self-love. So if someone is listening and they think, oh, self-love, that's weird, I don't do that, I don't relate to that. Where should people begin, do you think?
I suggest appreciating yourself. And in that way, because the term self-love, I am self-love. I've had people say to me, come to me and say, well, I say I am self-love all the time. Well, you can say that all the time, but until you feel it, it doesn't mean anything. And if you haven't had love in your life, or love has always meant abuse, and it is, and I know that love means abuse, so you relate it to that, then often people will, if love means abuse, and I'm supposed to love myself, well, then they go into actually abusing themselves, and that's when they're critical of themselves. So start appreciating. I just take it back to the basics, and this is how I moved into appreciating myself. Appreciate your eyes, because they give you the ability to see. Appreciate your ears. They give you the ability to hear. Appreciate your hair, because it keeps your head warm. Appreciate your skin, because you look pretty funny walking down the street without any skin. So you just bring it back to the basics. Appreciate your joints, because they give you the ability to be flexible. I mean, you can move forward and different things like that. The more a person can, those are things we just take for granted until they're gone. But once they're gone, then you start really appreciating them. Move into appreciation, because then you start appreciating yourself. And see, love is so, that can be a really loaded word, and it can mean abuse. So people say, well, love yourself. Well, okay, love means abuse. Well, I'm just going to be hypercritical of myself, because that means I'm loving myself. And that happens. I did that for years. Many people do that. But you can appreciate the things you take for granted. Yes, we take the earth for granted, but the earth is so big, and if you're not feeling the connection to it, then you start with appreciating yourself. As you appreciate yourself, as you appreciate the ability to see, eyesight. I mean, and you look at what eyesight gives you. It gives you ability to write. It gives you ability to get dressed in the morning. It gives you the ability to walk somewhere, to drive somewhere, to read. I mean, eyesight, you look at something as simple as eyesight that we take for granted gives us so much freedom. I mean, you can start to really realize that and appreciate yourself. You build up that frequency, that feeling of appreciating yourself. Well, then you start appreciating the nature, the earth, the beauty of a sunset, where before it was just something that was there. Now that you're appreciating yourself, you can appreciate, the earth and others more. And that's what I suggest when somebody, because love, it can be a really loaded word. And I remember hiking with a friend of mine years ago and saying, what is love? Like, really, what is love? And trying to figure out because love, as I see it, and I've been shown it in divinity, the divine existence. It's just pure. It's just purity. It's expansiveness. It just is. It's when it comes into human consciousness and that it starts getting tangled up, it gets limited, it gets restricted, and then we learn that love is abuse or love is neglect. So then we neglect ourselves, or we neglect our relationships, or we, different things like that. But appreciation, we can appreciate something that's really simple. It's being conscious of that, aware of it, and taking the time to do that. It's also for anybody who's having trouble falling asleep or anything like that, it's a great way to fall asleep, because you move into that frequency of appreciation. And you will find, for anybody who's having trouble, the mind gets going when as soon as you lie down, all the stuff comes up. When you focus on what you appreciate about yourself, your feet, because they take a beating every day, but they just keep supporting you. Your legs, because they move you forward. Your arms, because you can embrace somebody, or you can reach out and grab a glass of water or something like that. As you fall asleep, if you start saying that, you move into that energy of appreciation. Your whole body, anybody who's having problems, falling asleep or something like that, just do this. Your whole body will relax. Your mind relaxes. Your brain relaxes. Your heart relaxes. Your heart rate will go down. Your blood pressure will go down. Your tension will leave your body, and you'll fall asleep. So there's a tip for somebody who's not sleeping very well.
I love that. I think that's a really helpful tool, because even if the appreciation part is a stretch for some of us at first, we can get into that. As you said, I appreciate my eyes or my hands or the air that is allowing me to live, or the water I'm drinking, or this cotton pillow, this mattress I'm laying on at night. And I agree, that's a really beautiful, a simple pathway, but a really deep pathway for moving into a loving and compassionate self-awareness and a loving and compassionate awareness of the larger world.
Right. And many people talk about abundance and expansion and freedom, and that's how you do it. You don't move into abundance and freedom by worrying, by being limited, by being restricted, by being overwhelmed, by being in fear and anxiety. I'm not saying to ignore those things. I'm saying to consciously put yourself in a higher frequency, because as you appreciate yourself, all those restrictions, not just within yourself, also releases from your field. And as that expands, you move into abundance. It's like you create space for opportunities and possibilities to come in. So this all works together. It's not like you're appreciating yourself and that's it. It affects everything in your life. And appreciation, where love can be so loaded and so linked up and connected to abuse. Appreciation, we generally have a more basic and more holistic understanding of appreciation. So we're more willing to appreciate, or if appreciation doesn't work for somebody, they can, move into approval, whatever it is. You're moving into a person can tell this works by just how they feel. If they do this for 5 or 10 minutes, or even a person can do it for 20, 30 minutes, you're going to feel amazing and so free and so light. You can do it before. If somebody wants proof that this works, just notice how you're feeling. Notice your flexibility. Maybe, just bend down and see your flexibility in that. And then do this, or just move into just appreciate yourself for everything. And then just move around and notice your flexibility. You'll be so much more flexible and more feeling free and expansive. And then, of course, when we appreciate ourselves, we start to look around at ourselves and look at it from a different understanding, a different place. We start to connect with that. You go for a walk in the forest, and all of a sudden, the trees, or we hear the birds or something like that we didn't hear before.
Yeah, I really like that, because appreciating life, whether it's yourself or the forest or the pond or whatever it is, appreciating life really inspires you to care for life. And
Exactly. Yeah.
I think that's our big learning curve right now. There are various ways to describe our big learning curve, but reverencing life, caring for life, nurturing life, preserving life, our own and others, is that seems to be what we're working on as humans.
Yeah, it's like, I think we've all had the experience or something similar of where, let's say you're getting a new car and you buy a car and you never really noticed it before until you buy it. Now all of a sudden everybody's got it, or they've got that color or something. It's the same thing when you pay attention to caring for yourself, you pay attention to appreciation, you start noticing that in your outside world as well. And you notice when somebody's really kind to you. You notice, somebody needs my help, the earth needs my help, this animal needs my help, or something like that. You start to see things outside yourself where you can connect to it and feel compassion for it and such. So it all works together.
Yeah. I know that in addition to working one-on-one with people, you also are able to lead a group process that can invite anyone participating, anyone listening to benefit. Is there a process that you would like to offer for our listeners today that would, in some way, however you feel guided, support us at this interface or connecting point of one's own well-being and the well-being of the larger life community?
Okay. Yeah, sure. Let's see where we're going to start. Well, you had mentioned overwhelm. So there you go. Just take a deep breath in. Okay. So just remember to breathe. Let that life force energy just fill you up. Okay, first thing that comes in, so I'm just going to follow what comes in and we'll come to a place of peace. First thing that comes in is anger, and it's anger at the way, the earth is treated, what's being done to it. And then when we get angry and we get caught up in that, that's when we get overwhelmed. And it just feels like too much. And then we start saying, well, who am I? Like I'm just one person. There, just breathe. Okay, yeah, okay, just breathe. See, when we do that, it just feels so heavy. We feel weighed down, and then we tend to just say it's too much and ignore the whole issue there. So just breathe. So, okay, let's go to anger, and let's look at that anger. So, okay, so there's some lessons in that anger. Focus on the anger right now in this moment. Focus on the anger. Let's just see that anger, because the anger is, emotions are always a part of you that wants to be acknowledged, being given attention to. So that anger is a part of you that is asking you to acknowledge yourself, to pay attention to yourself, to be a witness of yourself. And so we're going to witness that anger. There you go. As you witness the anger, interesting, as you witness the anger, you take your power back because you are acknowledging yourself. You're acknowledging that part of you that has been asking for attention since you were a child. So there, you take your power back. And by power, I don't mean traditional patriarchal power, abuse, dominance, violence, and such. I'm talking about divine power. You're connecting to feeling empowered, grounded. Okay. There's some more anger coming up, and the anger is around the word power. So let's witness that anger around the word power. All the ways you have been taught, it has been demonstrated, you have witnessed power as abusive, domination, belittling, shaming. There you go. Any ways in which you have like abuse of power and love connected. Let's witness that. Let's witness it and acknowledge it. And any ways in which you have turned that on yourself. Let's just let that go. There you go. Okay, so all of a sudden, it's like your eyes opened up and you saw what's going on in humanity and what's being done to the earth. So let's witness that. Simply, we're just going to be observers. In this moment, just observe it. So that you're looking with open eyes at what's being done, but you're simply observing it. There you go. As you observe, see, you don't get attached to the trauma of it. You observe it, and then that allows you to open up to creative ideas, to ways to support higher consciousness. There you go. There. Take a deep breath in. Let go. There's a little bit of happiness. There's some fun and laughter coming in. There you go. There's a space for possibility. And you're opening up to possibility. And you're even opening up to creative solutions, new ways of being, seeing how you can make a difference, seeing how we can all work together to support each other. Okay, there's grief coming in. This is grief for the earth herself. So let's witness that grief. Let's witness the grief and acknowledge it and accept the grief. Just accept it. There you go. And then allow this grief as it's ready to be released. And replace the grief with honoring, witnessing, and acknowledging the earth. And acknowledging that the earth is the reason we're here. To honor the earth for all that she gives us, she provides us with. To appreciate the earth and her inhabitants, animals, plants. There you go. Okay, let's imagine, see all the different layers of the earth, right from her core, right from her crystalline core, all the way through, and bless all the different layers of the earth. Bless her consciousness. Bless her soul, her spirit. Let's thank the earth for providing us with a home, an environment to exist in, to survive and thrive. There you go. There's the compassion for Mother Earth. So we're going to allow this compassion to awaken even further. And let's bless all of humanity, the earth, the plant kingdom, the animal kingdom, all the aspects that make up this current existence, past, present, and future. There you go, with compassion, understanding, acceptance, flow, harmony, and all those that do not have the understanding of the earth and all that she gives us, let's bless them, see them, witness them, acknowledge them, and allow them, when they're ready, to move into a higher frequency, plane of consciousness, understanding. And let's create space for them to see the earth as a living, breathing being, providing all us humans with existence. There you go. So allow yourself to feel the peace and allow trust to awaken within you. Trust that everything is going to be okay. Everything is unfolding for the highest and greatest good of all. Trust. Allow trust to awaken within you. There you go. Allow every cell of your being to be embraced with trust. There you go. Take a deep breath in. Let that go. There you go. Take a deep breath in, and you might need to come back to us here. Wow.
That was wonderful. Thank you, Joy. That addressed probably everything that I feel we need to be giving our heart-based attention to right now. I loved how you facilitated an energy of reconceptualizing power, which I think is happening now on the planet. It's been happening for a while, at least a century or two, that we've been starting to build this conversation, starting to gradually move away from the exclusive or patriarchal or domineering understanding of power into something that's inclusive and masculine, feminine, balanced, and heart-based. So I loved that you facilitated that energy and also mentioned that an outcome is creative solutions, that as we spend time in these higher frequencies, as we release trauma, the creative solutions become very apparent.
Yes, absolutely they do. What you touched on there, Helen. See, as we release the trauma, as we release that frozen, stuck energy, that opens your third eye will start to open. And that's your vision and intuition. And then, and plus it allows your creativity. So your, intuition, creativity works together. And as you release anger is generally stuck in one of the lower chakras, especially the second chakra, which is about connection and relationships. So as you move from anger to witnessing and blessing those that may not know any better than what they're doing right now, you release the anger and you create space for creativity, because the sacral chakra is off, the second chakra is off, and that's where creativity, that's really the seed of creativity. So you release the anger, you open up your creativity, which also supports your intuition. Yes, new ideas come in. And you might say, why did I never think of this? I could contact this person. Well, maybe we could start this group. Well, let's focus on this. And the more we open up to that, so it starts with us caring about ourselves, appreciating ourselves, opening up to what's possible, working with others, because there's so many change makers, light workers, people who we're all waking up. And let's all do this together. Let's work together and realize that we create a better earth, humanity, plant, animal kingdom, a better space for us all when we all work together.
Yes, I really felt lit up and in accord with you at every moment there, but including when you acknowledged the people who aren't yet seeing in a compassionate or life-honoring way. I talk to people all the time who seem to have the assumption that we need 100% human agreement, or we need 50 or 60% human agreement in order to turn things around on this planet. And I say, you know what? Actually, the sociological research shows it's a tiny percentage of people who create transformation. Every time you look at some big movement, that we look back at as pivotal in the human experience, any renaissance in any culture around the world, we can tell it was just a little percentage of people who tipped the balance. And so I find that really inspiring. And I also loved that you acknowledged we can hold everyone in this circle of inclusion, no matter how they're seeing things right now, whether or not they're interested in crafting a harmonious human-earth relationship. Because as long as a certain number of people are just stepping ahead with that, then we're going to create what we need to create.
Yes, yes. You mentioned the tipping point there, and what I've heard is 11%. So this was more to do with moving into a frequency of love. And it was, and I don't remember the exact numbers, but once 11% of the population or more, but 11% of the population are at this frequency of love, then it will create that tipping point. Because many people think, well, we need, 51% of the people on this, path and in this frequency and vibration, like living in this energy field for things to get better. No, we don't. We only need a small percentage for that real major tipping point. So the more people we can wake up, but we will never wake up anybody by being angry with them or being judgmental or making them wrong.
Making them feel guilty.
Right. Exactly, yeah. Or if we make somebody feel guilty or make them feel wrong or judge them, we put them in the position of defending themselves. And then what they're doing is they're defending all their beliefs, they're defending how they're right. And this whole, you look at the world and it's just built on right and wrong. People, judging and making others wrong and such. And we want to move out of that. And it starts with ourselves. So that one question, 95% of who we are is unconscious. It's our unconscious conditioning. So we have tapes that play in our unconscious that loop over and over again. And one that is common for many people is, what's wrong with me? What have I done wrong? Or, why didn't I get this right? Or what was, we focus on wrong. That one question, if we can change that one question to what's right about this, what's right about me, what's right about this situation, because when we're changing our whole, we change we change our physical structure, and because we're energy beings, and the energy structure starts to shift, and then that extends from us, and then we start to treat others the same way, and instead, so we start creating that harmonious cooperation and wanting to work together. So it's all holistic, it all works together.
Yeah, it really does. Well, as you know, as we move toward a conclusion, I want to ask you about your vision of humans on a 5D planet or new Earth. But that's always a nice way for us to conclude. Before we talk about that, just make sure all our listeners know where to find you online. And I know you offer one-on-one sessions. Are there other offerings that you also want to mention?
Well, my website is courageinaction.com. So Courage in Action. That's also where you can get hold of me, joy@courageinaction.com. And my services are listed under there. And in December, I'm offering a Q&A call, so they can read about that. So that'll be a group call. And so there's individual sessions, and then they can look at that group call as well. And that's how to get hold of me.
Beautiful. And I will be publishing your web address with both our video and our audio versions of this conversation. So now this juicy question: when you imagine or reflect on or feel into what could be possible, what's maybe already kind of existing and coming into physicality here on the Earth, in terms of 5D or new Earth, what do you imagine or envision? How do you frame that?
What I imagine is kindness. Kindness for our fellow human being, kindness for animals, kindness for the Earth. And in a utopian world. And when I was really little, I just thought everybody was nice to everybody. And that was my utopian vision, and that would be great. I believe at some point, might be thousands of years, we're going to get back to that place. The more, though, everybody can be. My vision is just because kindness changes everything. You know, if we're kind to we're going to be kind to the earth. We're going to think about the earth. So the more, and I know it's so easy to get into stuck in the anger at what's going on in the corporations and that, but then that's where we're stuck. So again, bring it back to whether appreciation or kindness, because that just lets go of the energy. So what do I see for the earth is always going to be here. You know, the earth is going to be okay. It's how do we as a human species and humanity choose to move forward? And what we focus on, we will get more of in our life. So let's focus on being kind to ourselves and being kind to each other. Let's focus on appreciating ourselves, appreciating what we do have, because what we appreciate, we get more of. Appreciate pain, that to bring it to something, you know, we do every day, really basic, appreciate paying that bill, because then you will move forward with that. See, when we, just use something we do all the time, paying a bill. It takes money, and, you know, we can get caught up in there's never enough money and resentment and that. When we appreciate, and this affects the earth as well, when we appreciate, when we have gratitude for having the money to pay that bill, that creates an energy. When that creates that energy, appreciation, gratitude, even blessing the money, we move forward from that place. The next choice we make is from that energy of appreciation, of blessing, of gratitude. Well, that is going to affect how we live on the earth. It's going to affect the products we use. It's going to affect what we, if we buy food in plastic containers, or if we take a paper bag, or if we take a reusable bag, that's going to affect all our decisions. So when we bring it just down to our basic everyday ways of being and our actions, pay attention to the energy you're putting out there, and let go of judging others for what they're doing, whether it's an individual person or it's a corporation. And again, hold them in that space of love and appreciation, kindness. Be kind to yourself, be kind to others. And that is going to, what does the earth want? You know, if the earth we are the voice for the earth. If the earth could speak, what would the earth say? Well, I don't know exactly what she would say, but I probably say something like, be kind to each other, be kind to yourself, and be kind to each other. So I don't know if that's exactly what you're looking for, but that's what comes up when I think of a vision for the earth, is really one word: kindness.
Yeah, that is exactly what I'm looking for, because there are 1,000 good versions of this, or 1 million, or what, we're now 7 to 8 billion people on the planet. I think there could be 7 to 8 billion versions of what do I envision and desire as a really sacred, thriving human existence on this sacred planet. And I think you articulated appreciation in such a beautiful and compelling way as both a sacred path and a practical path. And I really like that. So thank you.
Well, thank you. Thank you for having me on my show. I love that. I love the topic, you know, humans and earth. Love it.
Thank you so much, Joy. It was really
Thank you for listening to Humans and Earth. Please share this episode to broaden engagement in the regeneration our world needs. You'll find social media links in the show notes. To explore our other offerings, visit www.humansandearth.com.
To know about further Humans and Earth podcast episodes, please make sure you're on our email list. You can sign up at humansandearth.com. Thank you.